GRACE, Good Relations and Collaborative Education, is a relationship-focused 5-stage model of collaboration which builds durable, interdependent relationships, fosters mutual understanding, and increases capacity for meaningful and sustainable sharing within the education sector. Stage 4. Engaging in a locality-based, multi-sector collaboration. Stage 4 of the GRACE model promotes active engagement with multiple school communities within identified geographical locations. The richness that comes from experiencing a variety of school settings, approaches and practices can give life to collaborative education that reaches far beyond the school gate. Stage 4 of the GRACE model will focus primarily on the development of relationships at institutional, departmental and individual levels within the same locality. A key component of this stage is to adopt an invitational approach which honours each individual school context and builds commitment towards a shared sense of trust and ownership. The Stage 4 case study will feature school leaders from local areas Antrim and Randalstown, describing why it is so important to invest time and to develop trusting, interdependent relationships.
A number of the schools in Antrim and Randalstown had been involved in a good relations project. Been a number of good relationships built up, and also an acknowledgement that perhaps we would want this to continue, the working together to continue. And as a group of teachers, we sat and we talked and discussed that actually we could do an awful lot more than we had done already.
Part of the nature of that project was that it was working with nursery schools, primary schools, special and post-primary from the controlled, maintained and integrated sectors. The other thing I think that would probably help to lay the groundwork of that too is that some of the schools had already developed relationships before that Good Relations project had started in 2009. So they had maybe already been participating in, say, the Education for Mutual Understanding programme, or else in the school's Community Relations programme. So there's already a little bit of a history with some schools in the area. So it was built up layer by layer that actually I think taking it slowly and walking alongside the schools at that point in time really helped the model to grow in a different way.
I think there were probably 8 schools in the Antrim and Randalstown area who were involved at that stage, who saw this as a good idea, and we became invitational. So we put our proposals to the schools that weren't involved, that this is the idea that we have, that we will work together, we'll cooperate and collaborate, and gradually the other schools came on board. The relationships that have been grown have allowed us to sustain and develop a model that is unique and a way of working that is actually, in the long run, going to make a massive difference to the communities in which we serve.
And one of the key aspects of that was to recognise not only the potential of schools to be at the change whenever it came to how to support society to work more together, how to support communities to come together, but also that it was key that we looked at not just, say, a pupil programme within the school or just supporting a teacher to go out on training, but instead we looked at actually, do you know what, we need to look at the whole school community here, so that we get an understanding of the fact that actually that every school is its own community and it's got multiple stakeholders within that, and therefore everybody within that school has got a role to play in peace building, has got a role to play in community building, has got a role to play in inclusion, and it's an equitable role. And so whenever we started looking at that, the relationships within that were key. Then whenever the project grew, we really started to look at twinnings, partnerships and collaborations. One of the things we did was that we supported people to come together around the table and not just to talk about what are your needs or talk about what are the issues, what are the threats, you know, where can we actually work together, but instead looking at actually how are you, what's going on for you, what have been the good things that have been happening for you, what have been the challenges that have been happening for you, how can I listen to you and be of support just through listening, or else how can I listen to you and be of support through maybe helping you to come up with ideas, building friendships and also having humour and crack along the way. And what we found through doing a lot of that was that actually people then wanted to come together more. So it was the building of the positive relationships that actually encouraged participation, and therefore something grew and snowballed out of that that attracted other people to come along and be part of it.
People are there, schools are there because they want to be. There's not a lot of difference between Randalstown and Antrim. It just makes sense that you talk to each other.
It's enabled for somebody even just to be able to pick up the phone from one school to another school to check something out with them, to ask for help and support. And though that might sound small in itself, to actually enable there to be a trusting network to allow for that sort of thing to happen, it's not actually small at all.
As the relationships have grown, the trust has grown. We have teachers as leaders of change, of thought, or change of attitude. Everybody gets together,
Yeah.
you know, and there's no barrier.
If pupils who are in those schools are seeing their teachers being comfortable going into another school environment, being comfortable working with their counterpart, they're modelling that.
We have been really fortunate through our developmental journey so far to have had a community partner as Chris. They know an awful lot about working with people, about the development of collaboration, about the development of relationships, about getting people to talk and encouraging communication between the schools and between the individuals. We don't think that we would be where we are now without their understanding of mechanisms for funding, mechanisms for leveraging additional training, the contacts that they have, and so on and so forth. Those are skills that schools don't have.
There is a perception out there of schools working and competing against each other for pupils and to get the best reputation in the community, and that's not what we're about. We want to deliver the best that we can for the children within our communities, and sometimes we need to seek help from outside agencies, and one of those avenues is working with other fellow professionals within our local communities, and then accessing resources and help in a collaborative way.
This programme is invaluable. It's the most common sense thing I've ever been part of in education. It's colleagues coming together for the good of the children and the good of the schools. I find it really reassuring in that as a principal it's a very lonely job at times, regardless how good your staff are. It can be quite lonely with decisions and difficult issues in school, and to find that there are other principals in my locality, right across the road, round the town, who have the same problems, the same concerns. It's just lovely knowing that friendship and that camaraderie and that support is there for each other.